2.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome to tonight's Life on Purpose call. We have Michaela here with us, a new and fresh face. And to anyone who's watching this, as well as everyone who's here tonight, on some level, somebody invited you here because to some degree, maybe there's, you have the understanding that you want more out of life. There's something further that you're looking for. Maybe there's a need that needs to be met. A feeling of wanting more, and someone who happens to be in a position of connecting you with something that could potentially offer you an improvement in the quality of your life in some degree, potentially offer you what it is that you're looking for. That's why we're all here tonight. That's why we gather on these calls, to share the conversations that we have, because to some degree, you'll be able to walk away with some value from the call tonight, even if it's just something as simple as a shift in perspective. Now, with that being said, we have my uncle, Mike, starting us off on tonight's call. You're going to hear from a number of us, but the presentation that he takes us through, I know for myself and for my two cousins, Sophia and Savannah, when we first heard it, it was like a light bulb went off. It just made so much sense based on the experiences we've had up until this point in our life, and really thinking about the direction that we were headed in, the direction that we wanted to head in, and whether or not we were actually moving in that way. And so I think this presentation in and of itself is fundamental, beyond anything else. Now, my uncle has so much wisdom to share and years of experience behind all of that wisdom, in terms of building out his business with Nikan, and all the lives that he's impacted along the way. He's an incredible speaker, motivational speaker. I've spoken in front of audiences, I think like 1,000 people. Right, Zio?
Considerably more than that. So
thousands of people, massive audiences. And honestly, when you start to hear him speak and you understand and you hear the wisdom that he has to share, you really start to get an idea of just how transformative and powerful his message is. And so we're lucky to have him here tonight. I'm excited to hear him speak. And Zio, with that, I'd love for you to take it away and get us started.
Thank you. If you have the opportunity to hear my story in a follow-up call, I'll be more than happy to share it with you. I was on a regiment where I was speaking on a stage every 3 months with numbers anywhere from 5,000 to 15,000 people. It was quite an experience as we were rolling out our platform. Tonight's call is really kind of an introduction of sort of a 50,000-foot view, sort of to check in on where you're at in life and see if there's a connection that you have to this information. As Elena said, the information alone is worth every minute you invest in this call. It can shift your life. It can shift your perspective. I found that in the life of the business that I'm in, the personal development business, you might hear one thing that can change the trajectory of your life. And so you're going to hear some great perspectives tonight that might do just that. The one I'm going to bring to you is the one that was a most meaningful one to me early on in my journey of becoming an entrepreneur, a lecturer, a motivational speaker, etc. It was the notion of success itself, the concept of success. How many people chase it and it seems to elude them, or they are living under their potential, and they know it. And that's the sad part of it, is when you know that you're not living up to your full potential, because that leads to a life that's not very fulfilling. But there's a reason why most people are not aligned with success. Success being not a destination, but a way of life. You're either a success or you're not at any given moment. What did you have for dinner tonight? Was it something that was nourishing to your body, or something that was just something to stuff your face with? Those are things, that's the understanding of, or the new understanding of what success is. So let's look at how we arrive at the life that we're currently living, and why the majority of the population are not having the life experience that maybe they imagined when they were early in life, or children. We're born into a structure. Structure represents, that word at the bottom there represents everything that you were born into. I'm talking about your family, your language, your culture, your financial situation, education situation, religion, everything that defines you and gives you a sense of identity and imparts to you that sense of identity through the belief systems of that system and that structure. So we are a product of the structures that we're born into. Just gonna see if I can mute that background. Not sure where that's coming from. Oh, okay, got it. All right, so if we are a product of the structure by virtue of the beliefs that that structure gives us, or the structures give us in order to fit in. So think about it. You're a kid, you're born, first 3 to 5 years of your life, you're trying to figure out who you are. But by that time, you've already been told who you are any number of ways. And society has imparted that on you as well. So we believe what we believe to be true is imparted to us from those structures. And of course, according to what we believe to be true about ourselves, about others, our relationships, etc., the world at large, we begin to behave, or we behave in our life that produces results. So our behavior is a function of our beliefs, which is a function of our structures, and the results that we get in our life are results of our behavior. Now, that may be fine and that may be obvious, and you probably already know this, and that most of those beliefs that we have are subconscious. So 95% of all the decisions that we're making that cause us to behave the way we do and create the results we do are subconscious. They're just the program. But when you look at the results that you're getting in your life and you compare that with what you imagine for yourself, the vision that you have for your life, most of you on this call are very early age. I can assure you at 57 years of age and being in this line of work for 30 years on a daily basis, how many people I meet and talk with whose vision is not even close to being a reflection of the results they're getting, or I should say the results they're getting is not even close to the vision they once had. Most people over a period of time lose their vision, and here's why. Because they go about life getting the results they're getting, and those results don't line up with the vision they had for themselves. We're talking about things like their level of happiness and fulfillment. We're talking about their level of health. We're talking about their level of wealth and prosperity. Consider this. How many people do you know are happy? How many people do you know are healthy? How many people you know are wealthy? I mean, if we look at the actual stats in the world, it's pretty disastrous. And how many people do you know are all three? Again, it's so unlikely to have happened, even though they were in the pursuit of that all their life. So this trajectory they're on is like an airplane that has a broken compass. If you're flying on this plane and you're flying, you're thinking, okay, we're getting somewhere, we're flying, and you think you're going to Paris. Meanwhile, the compass is broken and it's off by 2 degrees. Who knows where you're going to end up? Sure is not going to be in Paris. And that's how it is for most people. Unless they actually have another compass or they check and find out that they're flying in the wrong direction. But how many people do that? At what point in time do they actually check or compare their results with their vision and make the course corrections, changing the strategy? Few times. In fact, it usually happens when something catastrophic happens in their life, or they hit what we call a midlife crisis, later in life, where they realize my life is not at all what I thought it would be. I just ended up being what I ended up being and doing what I ended up doing just to make ends meet. So most people are on this trajectory to fail. They've been programmed to, and they are on the trajectory to fail. Again, if we look at health, how many people are happy? They say 15% is the population. How many people are healthy? About 27%. How many people are wealthy? Well, that's pretty low. Definitely under 5%. So think about that. What do you want to be when you grow up? I guess then we need to really look at, are we on the right trajectory? And how would we go about doing that? What we first of all have to ask ourselves is, what's our purpose? What trumps all these things is your purpose in life. And if we were doing this correctly, our educational system, our parents, everybody would have been conditioned to ask us not what do we want to be when we grow up. They would have asked us, how do you want to live when you grow up? That's a question that would come from somebody who's oriented around the idea of purpose. And then you would work backwards. You would say, okay, well, if you were living that life, give me a description of it. That's vision. And that might change over time. You might have a different sense of purpose and a different vision that aligns with that at different stages of your life. Right now, you guys are fairly young. You're probably thinking, about making a life for yourself, being financially free, maybe, or at least being able to support some type of a quality of life in these areas of happiness, health, and wealth. And therefore, if we looked at that and you said, okay, cut pictures out and make a storyboard of what it looks like, then I would ask, what are the results that lead to that? What are the milestones that you could measure to make sure you're on course? Because if you're not measuring it, then you could be one of those people who's way off course and find out too late. You don't want to waste that time. So we need some milestones. And then I would ask, okay, well, what would be the behavior? What would you behave like if you were a person who was actually on track to hit those milestones so that you could have that vision come to reality and be fulfilled in your purpose? And then we would ask, okay, so what would you have to believe to be true about yourself if you were somebody who automatically behaved that way? And we would need to then look at the beliefs that support that, and perhaps even more so the structure that you would incorporate yourself into or become a part of, like the structure that you're going to hear about today or tonight, that would create and support the beliefs, endorse those beliefs to lead to the behaviors that produce the results and the fulfillment of your vision and your purpose. So what, therefore, is your purpose, since it all starts there? Would you agree that a purpose-filled life is a life where you're doing things that improve the quality of your health in your body? You're doing things that improve the quality of your health where your mind is concerned, your perspective on life. You're doing things that build on and improve relationships like your family. And you're doing things that feel like you have a purpose in society, where your impact in society is measurable, tangible, and fulfilling. And where you are doing things that are improving your circumstances financially, not even marginally, but creating the kind of finances that would provide for the kind of lifestyle that would be fulfilling. Would you not agree that if every minute of every day you were on course to doing that, that would be a very purposeful life? And by definition, if you are actually moving in the direction toward that ideal life, you are doing what Earl Nightingale taught us, what my mentor Bob Proctor taught me, is the definition, the very definition of success. It's the progressive realization of a worthy ideal, the movement toward an ideal that's worthy of your life. And that means you could measure every minute of every day as to whether or not your airplane is flying in the right direction, if you had this as sort of the golden rule, the measure of purpose. So this universal concept of purpose was first presented to me 30 years ago. Now, before we get into that, of the 5 pillars we're talking about here, in terms of living this balanced life, purposeful life, which one do you think is the one that plagues the people the most? Which is the one that throws them off balance the most? And the answer is pretty obvious, I think, especially the younger you are, and that's finances, the prime directive, so to speak. So to talk to us a little bit more about why people's compass needle is off course when it comes to finances, we have Ellen, who's going to present to us some very, very important concepts around money.
Perfect. Thank you, Zio. Yeah, so my uncle does a great job of kind of painting the landscape of what it looks like to actually make decisions in alignment with our purpose, how we actually want to contribute and live in this life. And the reason why I always focus in specifically on finances as a fundamental pillar is because money is an amplifier at the end of the day. So when we think about you living your purpose, being your most purposeful, abundant self, resources and finances are a condition of our world that we shouldn't ignore. And a lot of us think that we know about money, but the reality is we know about wages. We don't actually fully understand, or I would say the small majority of the population actually truly understand what wealth creation looks like. And so for most of us, actually every single one of us, we learn about money and how money is made, how resources are created in this life from those that have come before us, namely our parents. to some degree in school, in the educational structure that does an incredible job of teaching us to become really refined employees. But the reality is we adopt the same beliefs, fundamental beliefs from a young age before we're even aware of it, around how money is made, the relationships that we hold with money that our parents hold, that those who have essentially raised us. And the story for most people goes, go to school, get educated, find a safe and secure job or career, and earn a living. And this works for some time because, you start to generate, depending on your level of education, you'll start to generate a decent income for yourself. Maybe you decide to start a family, you get married, and as your family grows, so does your need for more money, right? So what do? You work harder, you invest more time, more hours, you take on more debt, maybe a mortgage for a house, you pay more taxes, you pray for retirement, all the while teaching your children to do the exact same thing. And the cycle perpetuates itself. And it's been following this very structure, the pursuit of this structure, that has led to the number one cause of stress in most people's lives because of the strain on our freedom. Lack of time, lack of money, and lack of energy. In other words, unhappy, unwealthy, and unhealthy, essentially. And as my uncle mentioned, every single one of us, for the most part, is in the pursuit of all three of those things. But for the majority of the population, it often evades us. It's not something that's typically achieved. And so understanding why this is taking place, recognizing that the formula has not been working to our advantage, and then also beginning to break down our own financial literacy, our own beliefs around money, is really the doorway through which we can start to solve our financial problems, through which we can start to live more abundantly and more in alignment with our most purposeful self, our most abundant self. So what you're looking at here is a concept known as the 4 cash flow quadrants. And it was created by Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He is a massive mentor of mine when it comes to financial literacy. And in a very basic sense, there are 4 main ways in which we generate an income for ourselves in this life: as an employee, self-employed, as a business owner, and as an investor. And as we go through this, you'll start to see and understand just how much of a problem inherently exists here on the left side of the quadrants. So in the top left quadrant, you have the employee condition. And this is a situation I believe that most of us on this call are familiar with to some degree. Maybe we've had a job. We know someone who's had a job. Again, we understand wages, right? This is a condition in which you trade time for money. You are dependent on the company that you work for. You are dependent on the employer that you work for, and you trade your time for money. It's what I like to call a classic textbook case of earning a living, because you use all the time that you've got to work for the money that you're making to continue to live the way that you're living. And this is how 75% of the world's population generates an income for themselves. Your time equals your money. Now you move down into the bottom left quadrant as the self-employed. You have about 20% of the population essentially saying that they're not okay with the limitations placed upon them as an employee. They don't like being dependent on their employer. They don't like having to take, ask for permission to take time off. And maybe they're looking to increase their income potential. So they start their own business. This also includes more specialized professionals like lawyers and accountants. But what essentially we've done is created a condition where you're no longer dependent. You're now independent. In fact, you probably have others who are dependent on you, right? Like your employees. But the bottom line is you're still trading time for money. You now work for your business, where if you don't show up, your business doesn't operate and you don't make any money. Not to mention that as a business, or not even as a business owner, but the high upfront costs, high upfront risk and investment that are associated with starting a business, and that you as a business owner get paid last. So we've created a condition where you've become independent. You've claimed the title of a business owner maybe, but the reality is your business now owns you. And so 95% of the world's population lives within a condition in which they trade time for money. And what's the response to that when it comes to wanting to make more money? You trade more time. You invest more time. So the money that you earn is always coming through the form of active income, which means it's always coming at the expense of your own freedom. And time can either be your greatest asset or your greatest liability. But the problem inherent here on the left side of the quadrants is that time is always a liability. Because if your time is always dependent, or the income that you generate is always dependent on the time that you got, and there's only one of you, and we all have the same 24 hours in a day, then there's very clearly a limit to how much time you have available. And naturally, there would be a limit to how much income you can generate for yourself, right? So 95% of the world's population is living within a condition in which their income potential is not only capped, but the income they generate always comes at the expense of their own freedom. And intuitively speaking, when I was younger, getting educated, thinking about what I wanted to do for a living, this tension was not something that I felt good about. It didn't make sense in my mind. Now you move over to the right side of the quadrants. As a business owner with 500 or more employees, you now have a system that works for you, independent of you. You no longer trade time for money because you've learned that to generate an income for yourself, you build a business that creates value. And the more money you want to generate, the more value you add, the more value you create. And this is where we really start to tap into wealth creation, because you have a system that's working for you, independent of you, and that is leverage. It becomes less about trying to be the hardest working employee in the room. And instead, you've learned to hire people who are smarter or more capable than you. You've learned to develop relationships with people that you trust and respect, and to collaborate, to leverage those relationships where you go from being independent to now interdependent within a system and a network that is self-perpetuating. It's the difference between earning 100% from the efforts of one person and instead earning 1% from the efforts of 100 people. My uncle always says, most people look for work. Wealthy people will create networks. Because wealthy individuals, those that are in a position of wealth creation, understand the value in capturing a small percentage from something really great, really big, something that creates value independent of their time. And in the investor situation in the bottom right quadrant, it's kind of similar. You now are in a situation in which your money is working for you. You're no longer actively working for your money. Your money is growing independently of you. You connect with the things that you value and you invest in those things, and your money compounds over time. So we have 5% of the world's population owning 95% of the world's wealth, because the wealthy understand that rather than trading time for money, you create wealth by building assets that create value independent of your time. And I want to go back to the thought that I brought up earlier about how time can be your greatest asset or your greatest liability, because the reality for most of these people here on the right is that they have more than one source of income, multiple streams of passive and residual income. And if you're an individual who's trading time for money, it can be very difficult to conceptualize the capacity that you have as one person to develop more than one stream of income, right? Because you're using all the time that you've got to work for the money that you're making through this one source. But the individuals on the right have more than one source. And the difference lies in how they use the time that they've got. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. Do we invest that time, in the things that matter most of us, or do we make excuses for the time that we don't have? And the reality is, those on the right, they're builders. They use their time, will create the time, find whatever time they can to build an asset. They want to know that the way in which they use their time and money is multiplying. It's compounding over time. It's generating something larger over time. And what they do is build assets. And once an asset is up and running and generating an income, they'll go and duplicate that process, because there's no limit to how many assets you can build or how many assets you can create as a business builder. There is, however, a limit to how much time you can trade as an employee. And so those on the right will use whatever time they've got to build assets. The reason being is because these are individuals that more than anything else in their life are driven by one singular thing, and that is their freedom. Wealth creation is not at all about, money accumulated. It's not about having all the money in the world. It's about finding a way to generate an income for yourself that can afford you a lifestyle inspired entirely by how you want to live. It goes far beyond the difference of being an employee versus an employer. What we're really talking about here is the difference between having control over your own destiny and giving up that control to others. For those on the left trading time for money, they're emotionally driven by security. and to no fault of their own, because that's essentially how we've been taught. We've been taught to pursue the high paying job, the job security, the benefits, the pension plan, right? That security, that comfort and stability in our lives. But you can't have security and freedom at the same time. And chase security, you'll become the most insecure person around. For those on the right, it's all about their freedom, time freedom, money freedom, ownership over their time, money, and energy. And that only exists on the right. So if these things are important to you, if your freedom is important to you, then learning how to build multiple streams of income, learning how to build assets, connecting with communities of individuals that are doing that, and learning from the people who have done it needs to become a priority in your life. Because when it does, you'll find yourself in a position where how you work, where you work, who you work for, the work that you perform, these all become choices that are entirely yours. Again, not based on the pay, not based on the pension plan or the job security, just simply based on what it is that you love. I'm not telling people to not have a job. What I'm saying is, when it comes to thinking about freedom over security, everybody should be able to find themselves in a position where they get to ask themselves the question, is the work that I'm doing, the career that I'm working towards, the profession that I'm in, something that truly lights me up, the way in which I want to contribute, something that provides meaning for my life? Or am I simply just a hamster on a wheel trying to get by? And if it's not any of those things, can I choose differently? Am I in a position to choose differently? Because that's where freedom comes into place. And that's not at all a privilege that should only be afforded to 5% of the world's population. That's a position that every single person should find themselves in this life, because that's your God-given right. And I want to leave off on this final thought, because right now, more than ever before, we are going through such a massive shift in our collective history, at least for our time. And the world that we know is changing before our eyes. And this shift is really calling forward new leadership, not the kind of leadership that's taken on by one singular person, but it's, calling forward each and every one of us to step into our own power as a leader, to embrace the leader within. And humanity needs you to have resources. Humanity needs me to have resources, because again, money is an amplifier. It supports you in being able to contribute and live out your purpose in this life. It should not be ignored. And we need to transfer wealth into the hands of new leaders, out of the hands of old leaders living in the old paradigm of the world, into the hands of conscious leaders who truly want to have a positive impact, who want to circulate wealth. So to have a vehicle that can put people in that position, a vehicle that can bridge the gap between the left to the right, to put people in a position of wealth creation, of leadership, of self-empowerment and self-actualization, it's needed now more than ever. It's absolutely priceless. And it's exactly what we've got here with Niken and the Sovereign Life community. So with that being said, I'm going to pass the baton over to Sophia, and she's going to take us further through who Niken is, the 46-year-long legacy that has been this, transformational company, and why we're all here today.
Thank you so much, Elena, for that wonderful presentation, and also Papa for sharing with us about purpose. I really believe that once you have that compass in your life, it really changes the steps that you take. And 30 years ago, my dad made a decision that changed all of our lives forever. And I want to start just by sharing with you a little bit about the experience that I've been able to have as a young girl growing up in a Niken wellness home. And so I'm going to share my screen with you all. Let me know if you can see this. Oh, wait, one second.
Tell us where you are with the music in the background.
Oh, I'm currently sitting at a cafe or a restaurant where I was eating dinner in Antigua, Guatemala. Sorry guys, give me 1 second. This screen share. Yeah, it's been absolutely beautiful to have the experience of traveling and getting to see some really like incredible, mind-boggling places. I feel like every day I'm trying to process the experiences that I'm having because they're so incredible. And I think the reason why I have like the travel bug that I do is because I watched my dad travel the world my entire, childhood. As far as I can remember, like bi-monthly, he was going on trips, and he would always bring us back things from different places around the world. And if you go into my childhood room, you see like all these little knickknacks from countries all over the world. And when we were little girls, we actually had the privilege of living on the island of Barbados, and you could see some photos of that in the top left corner here. And of course, as we got older, we had, not really as we got older. I think I was traveling since I was like months old. I've been to more places than I can remember, literally, because I was so young. But I really got into live such a privileged life, such a unique life, where, I had my dad there as whenever, we needed him to be there. Where he constantly spoke about what he did to us and how much he loved what he did and how much fulfillment it brought him. Where he shared, stories from people all over the world thanking him for introducing them to a product or to a business that changed their life. And when I started to get a bit older, I realized how significant, how unique that was, because I heard from all my friends' parents how much they hated their jobs and hated getting up early and having to drive to work, and hated the people that they work with, and hated how much money they were making. And that's when I started to really appreciate the experience we had with Mika. Not just that, but also like when I started to realize the difference in mindset that I had versus a lot of people that were around me, a lot of friends that I had growing up. Because with Meekan, you really get the opportunity to grow as an individual, and you get amazing mentors along the process. And so that's why, although I've had a beautiful life and I've had so many rich experiences, and I've gotten to eat at some of the best restaurants in the entire world, and go to amazing hotels and live in a beautiful penthouse in the city of Toronto. The top right hand corner of the screen, there's a photo of me and my sister and our mentor, Bob Proctor. And if you don't know Bob, I suggest you search him up as soon as possible, because he is without a doubt, it's so weird now. I don't know how to phrase this. Bob passed away a few days ago, so we're all still processing that. But he is the world's most world-renowned success coach, and he's changed millions of lives across the globe, including ours. And we're lucky that we were people that were close enough to him that we actually got to have a personal relationship with him and receive his teachings on such a up close level. And that's because of Meekan, because Bob was involved with Meekan alongside my dad for 14 years. So that's the kind of mentorship and leadership you get with this company. And there's so many reasons why Meekan is an amazing business model. I wasn't sure that this is what I was going to choose when I was graduating university. I knew I wanted to be a business owner, of course, because I knew the cash flow quadrants. But I want to share with you the points that made me see Meekan as the best option for me. First thing being that it's online. And meaning as long as there's Wi-Fi, aka when you're in a restaurant in Antigua, Guatemala, you could still be making an income. And I don't know about you guys. I know everyone on our team is super passionate about traveling. Mick, are you passionate about traveling as well?
It's not something that I've been able to do much of recently. First of all, because of COVID, but even because just I got married and like the progression of things and financially, we just haven't been able to. But like my family did a lot when I was younger, and so I really appreciated that, and I do want to in the future. So yeah.
And it's tough, we we blame it on COVID, but the reality is most people are only, if they're lucky, gonna go on a trip for 2 weeks out of 365 days. You know, and I think that's pretty sad considering the beautiful and incredible world that we live in. I want to be able to take my work with me wherever I decide to go. So that means that I can see more of the world and I can, you know, be more free, and I don't have to ask permission to go on vacation. That is just an honest nightmare for me. So that's one of the reasons why I love Weekend and why it just really fit for me. The next thing I loved about Negan was that there's no risk in starting a business with us. You know, you talk to any business owner, they'll tell you there's always risk, but not here. You really have nothing to lose and everything to gain. It's a very minimal startup fee. And for that startup fee, you can, like $20, you can start generating an income right away. And then the other investment that we will ask you to make is in a product, because if you're going to sell and promote products, you're going to need to know the products you're talking about. But luckily, these products are only going to add value to your life, not just your life, but anyone else who is exposed to them. These are products that are going to help you live a longer and healthier life. Right? And you would agree that that's an investment worth making, that that's something that you can never lose when you're making an investment in your health. So that was another reason why I love Negan. And I didn't have a lot of money to start a business when I just graduated university. But I had enough to start a Negan business. And since making my investment, I have like returned that times 800 or eight times 8 or more. 800% was what I was trying to say, because yeah, conversions. But anyways, I've only made money with this. It's given me the ability to travel and do all the things that I really wanted to do. And I'm super grateful that I started when I did. The next thing is Negan's ability to leverage. So leverage is a really important word when you're looking at starting a business, because odds are you've never done this before and you don't have the skills that it takes. You don't know the first thing about building a website or about making a product or about shipping that product or about customer service, or, you know, all of these things are, they're challenging. They're skills that we don't learn in school. So we need help, right? And some people can stumble around for years trying to learn those skills. But in Negan, you have all of that built into the system. For your $20 sign-up fee, you're going to get a website already made, your unique link where you can start promoting products that have been researched, that there's been research and development that goes into these products for the last 46 years. This is a company that's been studying health, what makes the body healthy, for 46 years. You don't have to do any of that work. You get to leverage that research and that development. You get to leverage the manufacturing that they have. You get to leverage the shipping and distribution channels. You're not going through the effort of setting that up. You're not paying for those things to be set up. That's beautiful. And when you really think about it, that's like unheard of. You get mentorship of people like my dad who have been doing this for 30 years and who have the lifestyle that you're after. You ever heard the saying, like, find somebody who has what you want and you know, don't listen to anyone else? Well, you have somebody who has what you want right here on this call, who's willing to work with you in any capacity that you want to work. And you could not afford my dad's mentorship if you wanted it. Then, of course, we have the community of people who are here to keep you accountable to your desires and to motivate you and to make you, to create really a space where you feel like you belong. It's a business where you work for yourself, but not by yourself. And I really think that that's what everyone's after right now. We're after the sense of community. We want to feel like we belong. We don't want to be alone anymore. We don't want to do it on our own, do it the hard way. We want to find a place that supports us in becoming the best version of ourselves and be able to do it together. The next thing I loved about Negan was how scalable it was, meaning that I'm not trading X amount of hours for X amount of dollars. As I continue to put time and energy into this and money into this, that's going to compound. That's going to grow exponentially. And eventually it's going to give me my time, my money, and my energy back. tenfold or more. You know, in my dad's case, I don't even know what his return on his investment is, but it's more than tenfold. You know, there's really no limit to how far and wide you can grow this thing. It's only up to the limits that you place on yourself. And that means unlimited income potential. You know, if you're trading time for money, you're always going to be limited, but here it's unlimited. And I also really, you know, I appreciate all of the last few factors that I mentioned. They're typical of the network marketing business, which I think is the best industry in the entire world. But you really have to be conscious about the network marketing company that you choose to work with, because they're not all created equally. And I know for a fact that this is a company with so much heart and so much soul, and is grounded in such essential philosophies. You know, like if you believe in balance, in having balance in your life, in the 5 most important areas in your mind, your body, your family, society, and your finances, if you believe in preventative health, you know, in creating a lifestyle where wellness is an everyday thing, where you're drinking clean water, where you're breathing clean air, where you're eating quality, nutrient dense food, where you're connected to Earth's energies, where you're getting a good night's sleep, then this is a company that's right for you, because it will totally align with all of your values. If you believe in making a difference in the world, you know, and contributing to society, this is a place where you will fit perfectly. And remember when we talked about how success is the realization of a worthy ideal, and a worthy ideal is something you would trade your life for? But when I heard Niken's mission for 2025, I knew that that was something that was worth trading my life for. So our mission in this company is to make every home a wellness home, meaning every home having the tools it needs to be happy, for the beings in that home to be happy, healthy, and wealthy. And our vision is to become the most influential wellness community on the planet. And I'm grateful to be playing any role that I can in building that community, because we are and we will continue to change the world. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it on to our final speaker tonight. And her name is Savannah. She's my sister, and she's going to tell you a little bit about the Sovereign Life community that we are building here, our little ecosystem within Niken, where all of us young and aspiring wellness entrepreneurs are coming together to make a difference, to make an income, and to make a community, you know, where we all really feel like we belong. So yeah, with that, Savannah, take it away.
Thanks, so. Yeah, so I want to start this off just by talking about a quote that Moya shared actually on her post the other day. And it really stopped me in my tracks. And Michaela, you may have saw it because I posted on my story, but you know, it stopped me in my tracks because I felt that it resonated with exactly what we're doing here and like what we value. And so this quote said, "No one is you, and that is your power." So that is the theme that I'd like you to keep in mind during this conversation. And yeah, you've heard about the business model. You've heard about, you know, how Niken fits into that. You've heard about how we grew up and how Niken has played a role in the lifestyle, the abundance that I've gotten to experience. But what you haven't heard is, you know, why Niken, and this is by sharing a story that lets you understand just the foundations and beliefs on which this team is built on. And so a few years ago, Niken and my dad was putting on an event called Humans Being More, because that's Niken's philosophy, humans being more. And he asked us to speak at it. And I was about like 18, 19. I just graduated high school, and I was asked to speak, and I never spoke in front of anyone before. And I had to speak in front of like hundreds of people at this event. And so he asked us to, you know, kind of just share about our experience of Niken and our life. And I started reflecting on myself, my mindset, I started going through all the 5 pillars and was like, okay, how has this pillar influenced me? How has this pillar influenced me? And that got me to reflect. And so conveniently, or coincidentally, I had a a job that I was working at a few days before the event. And so I kind of had my speech prepared. I was practicing it, and I met somebody, and, we just started talking. We started talking about our dreams and things that we wanted to do. And we just connected really well, because she was someone who, like me, loved to travel. At the time, I wanted to do acting. She wanted to do acting. And it was just like all these different things that, we were just dreaming, right? Letting ourselves dream. And then I moved to the conversation to, timeline, like doing it this time, how I'm going to do it, all these different things. And I saw this person go from like this expanded state of mind, so ecstatic, to literally just completely closed off. She started shutting herself down, started telling me all the reasons why she couldn't do it. One of them being money, resources, being tied to a job, having to do this, things that she didn't want to do. And it was just so bizarre to me because, especially at my age, like I didn't exactly have to think so much about jobs and this and that yet, because she was a lot older than me. But I always knew that it was never going to be something that I didn't enjoy. That was just fundamental to what I believed. And so I just started sharing with her my perspective. I started sharing with her, and the conversation slowly led to just my influence of how I grew up with Nikan and what I was going to be sharing at this convention. And after the conversation, she said to me, "Wow, this conversation changed my life." And like, that was pretty ecstatic for me to hear, especially that was the first time I've ever heard it to begin with. And I think anyone hearing that would be pretty amazed. And so the first person I wanted to share this with was my dad. So I called him when I got home, and I said to him, like, I told him the story, and I told him what she said to me. And he said, after I told him like that she said I changed her life, he said, "Now you know why I do what I do." So I was taught in that moment that my voice mattered, that what I have to share matters, because what I say, you never know how much you being you can make a difference for somebody else. And I don't remember who it is, but it's one of the famous, entrepreneurs. They say, by you not being yourself, you are a disservice to other people. So we need to be the most empowered selves that we are. And those are the beliefs that are reflected in this business. The Sovereign Life team is about building people up and empowering them to be the most aligned versions of themselves with their purpose. This isn't about you being a Nikan wellness consultant. It's about you being someone empowered, and is someone that's able to empower others because you have a vehicle to do so. And one of the fundamental beliefs in the company is that success ensues. You succeed by helping others actualize their own success. And wow, what a company to stand behind, one that teaches you that your success gives you the door to help others succeed. I don't think, that's really uncommon to hear of in a lot of businesses. And it's like the saying goes, as my dad always says to us, you give someone a fish and you teach them for a day. You teach someone to fish and you feed them for a lifetime. But teach someone how to teach someone else to fish, and you can feed the world. And what one person truly can change the world. And you can be that person. Everyone can be that person. Everyone is that person. But the one thing is, you don't do it alone. No one succeeds alone. Even anyone listening to this right now is part of this team, this movement's success, because you're part of the vision, you're part of hearing it. And that's in itself not just me doing it alone, or Sophia or Moya or anyone doing it alone. It's everyone doing it together. So an impact isn't made alone. And that's how we create a world with meaning, by creating a community of people to do it with. So a few months ago, we started, me, Sophia, and Elena came together, and, we, probably similar to you, like, we knew that we didn't have an interest in living for the weekend. Okay. We didn't want to work our entire weeks 9 to 5. And that's just something that we knew for ourselves. Maybe some people do like it. We personally didn't. We personally knew that we had a greater purpose, that we weren't meant to be just doing the same thing every day, but that we were meant to express. There was a reason we had desires that we wanted to do. And us not being able to do that, again, is a disservice to us existing, to us being here. And so we came together and we decided to do this. We decided to put the logs together and we started a fire. And this is how my dad likes to explain it. So we took a few logs, me, Sophia, and Alana were the 3 logs, and we came together and we had an idea. And we started talking, which, started creating the kindling. And so we started adding a bit more, which eventually we got the flame. It became a tiny little fire. And that fire began to spread. As you can see, there's not just 3 of us on this call anymore. So it continued, it grew. And we're at a point where it's not going to stop. There's a vision, there's a mission, and this mission is greater than all of us. And we know that. And we're going to do it. And it's going to happen with or without you. It's going to happen. But without a doubt, we want it to be with you. Because as Steve Bowe said, quoted by Bob Proctor, God's gift to us is more talent and ability than we will ever hope to use in our lifetime. And our gift to God is to develop as much of that talent and ability that we can in this lifetime. So the Sovereign Life team knows this. And each person has a gift to share with the world that is unique to only them. And we want to give you a platform to do so. We are about reconnecting people with their purpose. You are meant to be free. You are meant to experience and express yourself, and you're meant to be limitless in it. I really don't believe we're meant to be restricted. Our souls are meant to take inspired action, and we need the time, we need the resources to be able to do that. So what the Sovereign Life team has in common is that we aren't willing to settle for anything less. No one is you, and that is your power. So I invite you today to be powered by this community. Thanks.
Thank you, Sa.
By the way, I just want to quickly show you something I found on, that was the day that they presented at the big event. And just to give you an idea of the size of this event, that this is the oops. This is the room that we had at the gorgeous Sheraton Hotel downtown. So that was their first appearance in public to talk about NECAN from the point of view of, they weren't involved in NECAN. I just asked them to talk about what it meant to be someone who grew up in the NECAN life. And I knew that audience would really appreciate that, because this three kids who are very capable of presenting themselves did an amazing, they stole the show. So other than Bob Proctor, who presented at that event, it was these guys that everybody was talking about.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it was cool just because I only realized now how much this lifestyle has made an impact on me. And that's why when I speak, I'm so passionate about speaking about it, because it really has shifted me. Like even in the last 6 months, like I've had the influence just being in the, the mindset that through what my dad's experienced, but now like actually being in it within the business myself, I've shifted more in the last 6 months than I have in the last 3 years of my life, in a way that I was saying to Ellen and Sophia recently that there was a version of myself that I saw, I had a vision of who I wanted to be, like this older version of me when all my dreams and everything is put together. And I felt so detached from that person at the beginning of the year last year. I just didn't feel like I was anywhere near there. I had no idea how I was going to get there. But as Bob Proctor says, you don't need to know how, you just need to be connected to the why and to what it is. And so I was connected to that vision, and somehow I ended up getting into NECAN. And I didn't know that NECAN would be that vehicle. But as many people say throughout the business, NECAN is a personal development program with a compensation plan. You're getting paid to grow. And I think that's the coolest part about it. And that's why
that really can't be understated, Savannah. Most people think, oh, all I got to do is get into a business like NECAN, and now I'm in the B quadrant. So everything's going to be perfect because now I'm in the B quadrant. The B quadrant is a mindset. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. So
Yeah.
to move from the employee mindset to the B quadrant mindset, you usually have to go from the employee mindset, which is a dependent mindset, to that of an independent mindset, which is kind of the self-employed point of view,
Yeah.
and then transition to the B quadrant, which is the interdependence. If we can shorten the curve for somebody, accelerate their growth through that, which is what we do with Nikan as a vehicle, because it supports that entire process, then what you have is a path, but there's no shortcut. We can shorten the gap, but the gap is still there depending on where you're at in life at this time. But if you ever wanted a tried and true mechanism to get you from here to there, this is it. And I've been living it for 30 years and helping people around the globe adopt it. And by the way, some of you are, Moy is a mom. Michaela, I'm sure you've got plans to be a mom. You know, what kind of a life could you, and a legacy could you give your kids if they were raised in an environment where this is the kind of conversation that's taking place? And that's why, like I said, what you're seeing in Sophia and Savannah and Elena are the exemplary results of that thing that happens in the background, which means, again, I caution you, your habits, your thoughts, the sins of the father are handed to the son. There's a reason why that's a biblical passage, because the structures we're born into impart our beliefs, impart the beliefs that we adopt. So your children are going to be born into an environment, a socioeconomic environment, a way of thinking that is going to condition them as to how and who they're going to be in life. And if you're already oriented around a life of purpose, and that's what you're giving them instruction on, then they are going to be kids that are very awakened in the world. They're going to stand out.
Yeah. That's true. I kind of wanted to leave off on that note where, from my personal experience up until this point, and it's still early, you know, I've been building my business now for 7 months. I really think the real value in this entire experience comes from who you become as an individual, the lives that you impact as a result of that, and the wealth you create is really simply a consequence of all of that. You know, you just continue to grow and learn and develop, like at a pace that is like unimaginable, as Savannah mentioned, looking back on who we were when we first started compared to where we're at now. Like that to me has, I think, been the most rewarding experience to date, in beginning to build all of this. So business that is a personal development program with a compensation plan. We do not mince words. That
Hey,
is
you've got a couple others here who could share their evolution so far, Moy and
Yeah.
Rosemary. Why don't you do that? Just
Yeah, guys, let us know. Share a couple thoughts.
what do you think has changed, or how is this? How maybe your why and
Why?
what you've experienced so far?
Mm-hmm.
And Alicia, sorry, Alicia's on the line as well.
Yeah, so I definitely agree. I noticed, like, when I was younger, I always had a dream, and I could see myself and like I'm gonna buy land, I'm gonna build my house from the ground up, and I want all these rooms and bathrooms, and I literally seen it. Like I remember saying this to the friends and in my head, I'm like, I'm gonna move to Miami, and I had these huge dreams, and then somewhere along the line, as I grew older, I just stopped dreaming. And it really wasn't until I came to Nikan and I heard this speech for the first time, and I was like, it clicked to me. I'm like, at what point in my life did I stop dreaming? Like, at what point did I think, like, hey, yeah, this is life I'm gonna live, and I'm gonna just like be content with this small space I have when there's so much out there for me. So I like what really drew me was the fact of like, yeah, it allowed me to dream again, to be childlike and dream big, and know that I can help people and still and like have my morals intact, as well as creating the lifestyle that I want for myself and my kids. So that's something that's like you can't get anywhere, you can't buy that, it's priceless. So yeah, I love it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. And we're happy to have you. Very happy.
Michaela, do you have any questions?
Wait, hang on a second. Let's hear from Rosemary.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
And
Sorry.
Michaela, keep those questions on hand.
So yes, similarly to Moya, I have this dream in my head that I hope to become a reality, where I am financially independent and I want to raise my kids in a simple way, not as this modernized living. So I feel like Niken gave me, Niken is like a vehicle for me. So I was able to set certain goals for myself to help elevate my finances, my physical and mental health, and to build a successful lifestyle that I want, which I know that I can't full, just from my experience and observations from my parents and my friends' parents and stuff like that. It's very, very difficult to build the lifestyle that I want with just working a 9 to 5. I don't think it's very possible, and I don't want to be constrained by those types of hours. And like you said, the 2 weeks off for vacation, hell no, that's not happening. So there's many things I can talk about, but that's just something that's super important to me. So it helps me flourish, and it helps me realize I've got stuff to do. And now I have the mental capacity and the mindset to actually approach those things and become successful at them. So that's what so far Niken's done for me, which is
Awesome.
I would say invaluable.
I love
I
that.
know, I know, Michaela, you're short on time. Do you have a couple more minutes?
Yeah, I'm good for time. Don't worry about it. I'm okay. Yeah.
Alicia,
Any questions?
I just wanted to hear from Alicia, and then we'll have the questions.
Sorry.
I just had like a side thought. I expressed this to Elena the other day, actually. And I think we were doing a Life on Purpose call, and Rosemary ended it with a quote about, I can't remember exactly what the quote was, but it had resonated with me so deeply because during the call, I had the exact same thought, and more or less, I'll shrink it down. But when if I pray, the odd time that I pray, I don't directly ask for more money. I ask for the opportunity to make more money. And Rosemary's quote was along the lines of, does God give you courage, or does he give you the opportunity to be more courageous? And at that moment, it clicked for me. I was like, this is my opportunity to make more money. Like, Niken is that vehicle that's going to give me what I want in life. And that was just like a huge revelation for me. And, Niken is an ever growing, personal business, and I'm growing into myself more and more as I've gone on. It's been a long time coming for me, but I'm slowly getting there. So, yeah.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Thank you. Michaela, any questions now that we've heard a lot of beautiful stories from everyone on our team? Go ahead.
Okay. So I had written down questions, and then as all of you move through the different aspects, you answered them. So it was actually really perfect. But my one question that I had was when you're looking at the right quadrant, right? And it was business owner or investor. And my thing was, well, I didn't take any business. I took grade 9 business, but I didn't pursue a degree in business, and I didn't pursue something in accounting or finances. But then you guys went on to say why with this, that you don't need that, this is the opportunity right here. And going into this, when Savannah was like, hey, do you want to learn more? And I was like, I do want to learn more. And I didn't know if this meeting or call would give me the information that I wanted, and it did even more than I thought that it would. So I'm really impressed. Yeah.
That's amazing. And Michaela actually has a mag flex. So she's trying it out now. Are you wearing it? Yeah. Yeah, she's trying it out now. So
make sure you use the smooth side against your body.
Yeah, I let her know that.
I had it flipped. I'm like, Savannah, help me. So I figured it out. But yeah, I also just want to add that in my life, I actually had an opportunity to own my family business. My family owns a garden center in Vaughan, Angela's Garden Center. I don't know where any of you guys are from, but I had an opportunity to own it, and I've worked there since I was like 13, and just really, it was very stressful, and I knew that the stress wasn't good for me. So I actually turned it down, which was like a big deal. Moved to Sarnia. I got married, which was a big deal. And I'm 22. I was 21. No, I was 22 when I got married. It was last year though. Got married, moved to Sarnia, and I just got a part-time job at the mall. And we didn't have a second car. We still don't have a second car. So I could walk to the mall. And then I had to work in the evenings. And I thought, I don't like this. I don't want to work evenings. So I quit that. And like I told Savannah that I was financially worse off, but I was mentally better off.
Mhm.
And then I got like another job at a school, which I'm a supply teacher, which it kind of just happened, but it gives me more flexibility with my time. And that's what I really want. And so everything that you said, I was like, wow, that's what I want. That's what I want. So it was really great.
By the way, Michaela, I started working at my dad's factory at 13, and I was offered the opportunity upon graduation to take over the business. And I said no, because I didn't want the life that he had.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. My dad's awesome, and I have 4 siblings, so there's 5 of us, and he works so hard to provide a life for us, and we have a beautiful life. Like we grew up like well off, but I saw the stress that he was going through, and I experienced it for myself. And you're right, like he would get up at 5:30, leave for work, and come home at 7 o'clock sometimes in the summer when it's really busy, or even later. And it's like the time that you put in is the money that you get out. Like even though he's like a business owner,
The business owned him.
he owns the business. Yeah.
No, the business owned him.
Oh, the business owned him.
If he didn't show up, what would happen?
Honestly, nothing really bad would happen, but he felt that he had to be there. Do you know what I mean? And because his dad, so my grandfather started the business, then he passed it on. There's 6 kids, so 3 of them took it over, and they just felt so like they were handed like a very fragile gift that they had to put in all the work to preserve it and to keep it. So they always felt almost like a sense of guilt, I think, that if they weren't there and something went wrong, it would be on them. Which, like, I understand that if the family business is passed down to you, that's a very, very big responsibility. Anyway, so that's why I didn't take it on. But, yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I think from here, like so on Saturday, are you available at Saturday at 11?
I think so.
Okay. Well, we have a call, and it gives us you've heard about like, just what we're doing, right? How it kind of works. But what you haven't heard is, okay, now how do we actually make the money in this? What is the business in this? And so Saturday you will hear about that. So I think the next step will be to come to our call on Saturday at 11, and I'll talk to you. I'll send you a bit of information.
Actually, I would say if you're ready to register, I would say register. It's $20. It's not a big deal. You have a Nikan account. But then it gives you access, and you can start snooping around in the back office and whatever, see a little bit more about the products and whatnot. Okay. And then, because Saturday's call is visual, because you need the visuals to sort of get the mechanics of what are the moving parts. It's not a lot, but you are in a process of of being informed. And I'm going to show you the process you're going through. And then that's essentially what we do. We inform people in this way.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you for coming on tonight. Thank you everyone for being here. And I really liked this call. I like that we had some time. We finished earlier than usual, so we had some time to actually talk, which was nice.
And thanks everybody for chiming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We like hearing your stories.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We need to remind ourselves.
Tonight was a good night.
It was.
All right, guys. Everyone enjoy
guys.
listening.
Have a good
Have a
one.
good one, you guys.
Bye,
Have a
guys.
good night, guys.